Hey what's everyone, welcome back to the channel. Today we're going to be taking a look at the Transformers Legacy Wreck and Rule Collection Autobot Springer. Here he is in his really cool looking robot mode. Before we take a look at him, let's take a look at the packaging. So in the front here we have really nice artwork of him transforming from his helicopter to his robot, looking super cool with his blaster and sword, of course. On the front we have the Autobot Springer text, Transformers on the side, the Legacy logo, also Wreck and Rule Collection. And on the top it does say that same text as well. On the very side here there is the Decepticon Legacy artwork. On the back he transforms in 29 steps from his robot to his helicopter and 25 steps from his robot to his race car mode, looking super cool in all three modes. And on the side here we have the Autobot Legacy artwork. And that is pretty much it for the packaging, so now let's get into this review. Here we have Legacy Springer in his really cool looking robot mode. Let's take a look at the details. We're going to start at the very top with the head sculpt. So there's some nice dark green for this crest section. On the side of the face we have a nice lighter green, and for the face we have this nice pale green. Also of course some blue for the eyes, and of course you can make out the nose, mouth, and eyes, which is really well sculpted. Getting to the shoulders, I really do like this nice steel metal gray they use for the shoulders and arms. That looks really good. Some nice red at those little point sections, some dark gray there as well. Getting to the side we do have the wheels that stick out on the shoulder and legs, looking pretty good. We have some nice black and gray, and I'm really glad they're not mushroom peg wheels. Those are really ugly. Getting to the forearm, of course, some more of that steel gray and green, more green for the hands. Getting to the chest, that nice symbol there done in blue and white with some yellow in the background. Really well sculpted, some like vent sections there. Getting to the stomach and the waist, of course, some nice gray, green, and darker green, so several shades of green, looking very cool. Nice contrast. Getting to the top of the legs, some more light and dark green. Getting to the legs here, some nice dark gray and steel gray. Some more green, more dark green and stuff, looking very cool. Some nice gray and dark gray for the feet. Overall, really well detailed, lots of mixtures of gray and green, and I think it actually looks very good. Getting to the back, of course, cleans up quite nicely. He does have a bit of a backpack. Of course, this figure does transform into 3 modes, so there is some sacrifices, and you can see a few ugly hinges here and there, but overall, I don't think it looks that bad. So overall, detail-wise, he looks super cool. Love the head sculpt, and I really do like that nice steel kind of metal gray for his shoulders and legs. Let's now get into articulation. So his head is on a ball joint, so he can look all the way around, up, down. His arm can move out and in. It can swivel here, swivel at the arm. There is a really good elbow joint to a very good degree. There is also wrist rotation. He also can rotate at the waist, back and forth. He can kick that far out to the side. He can kick that far forward, that far back. There's also a knee bend and an ankle pivot to a very good degree, but that's really due to transformation. So that's pretty much it for articulation. Of course, if you have the Siege version, you know exactly what to expect here for the details and the sculpt and the articulation. Pretty good. Unfortunately, on my copy, he actually has some very loose joints in the legs, so I do wish if you get a copy of this, it's better on yours. But of course, if you're up into modifying your toys, you could get some floor polish or some glue and tighten some of those. Let's now get into the accessories. He actually does come with quite a few. They're all the exact same ones that came with the Siege version, so nothing surprising. First up, he does come with 2 blasters, different scopes for each. There's this nice slender one here, this more clunky one here, and if you want to, you can actually tab these together and form a giant big blaster, and you can have that hold in his hand like this, which I think is pretty cool. A little bit long. If you wanted to, you could use that peg and put it in his hand. But you can also, of course, have him dual wield these blasters and put them in both hands. So just separate these, put them right here, like that, and of course the other one in the other arm, like that, and there you have him wielding his blasters. Of course, this was from the Siege War for Cybertron Trilogy, so those are Blastopiece compatible, which is good. And how I typically store them is actually on the legs. I actually think it looks kind of cool with him having blasters on his legs. So of course you could put them on either side. There is a port and peg, and I usually just plug them in there, which I thought was kind of a cool little feature. Just plug this one on the other side, just like that. And there we have the other weapon storage for the blasters. He also does come with 2 swords, and I'm actually really glad they're not the same gray as that. It's kind of a different mixture of gray, which is quite nice. Kind of makes it tell apart from the figure. Really cool sword. It comes with 2 identical sculpts, and you can actually store these in the hand like that, which is pretty cool. And just grabbing the other sword here, You can plug that in his hand as well. And now he is definitely really well armed, and I think that looks super cool in my opinion. There is actually another way you can store the swords, which is okay. Unfortunately, the connection for it is not the most secure. So as you can see back here on the backpack, there is a tab, and there is a slot in the hilt of the sword. You can actually just tab this into place like that. So there you have the alternate sword storage. Unfortunately, he does kind of lean back because of his ankle joints are actually very, very loose. But there is the storage. Of course, you could get the other sword put on the back as well, but unfortunately the connection is actually very loose, so sometimes it does just pop off. That's pretty much it for the swords. I'm just going to put this one back in his hands like that, so he can dual wield them. And the last accessory is really not that relevant to this mode here. It is really just this spinning piece that's really made for the helicopter mode. And where I typically store it is actually on the back right here, where you just plug it into place. If you wanted to, you could just leave it off to the side. It's just I do not want to lose it, so I typically stay it connected to the figure. That's pretty much it for accessories, so let's now get into some starting off our comparisons here. We have the Transformers Legacy Wreck and Rule Collection Springer with the Transformers Siege Voyager class Springer. So sculpt-wise, they're the exact same thing, just getting down into some more details. As you can see, of course, there is a lot of brushwork on the shoulders, the chest, and the legs for the Siege one, but there is none of that on this new clean and clear version of the Legacy Springer, which I'm actually really glad I have two different versions, so I can have more of a war-torn one and more of a classic simple one. Of course, the accessories I actually do prefer on the Legacy one because there's a darker gray for the swords and a lighter gray for the weapons, so it kind of makes it tell apart a little bit better. I really don't like how the swords and the weapons on the Siege one are the exact same color. It kind of just blends together. So also I really don't think the blue suits the swords. It looks kind of weird in his hands. Getting down to the head sculpt, I actually probably prefer the Legacy one. I like the several different shades of green for the face and the helmet section. Yes, probably the Siege head sculpt is much more accurate to the G1 show. I just prefer this one. That's just my opinion. And of course, the spinning accessory or spinning piece for the helicopter mode is included with both these versions. It's the exact same sculpt. It's just black on this one and gray on the Siege one, and I do store it on the back because I really don't have anywhere else to put it. Let me know in the comment section down below which one do you prefer, the Legacy or the Siege. I think they're both pretty cool figures. Unfortunately, on the Siege one, his joints are actually really, really tight, almost too tight, and on the Legacy one, they're actually really, really loose. So really just got to find that sweet spot where it's just the right amount of tightness, and of course a little bit of loose so you can mess around the figure and not be scared of breaking something. Let's move on to some more comparisons. Moving on to our last comparison here, we have the Transformers Legacy Wreck and Rule Collection Bulkhead, Springer, and Twin Twist. These are of course the three figures from the same collection that I have so far. I will be getting the Spindle and Impactor pack coming very soon, and I'll put that on the channel very soon, so make sure you stay tuned for that. Of the three figures, which one is my favorite? I have to say probably Twin Twist, because I do have the original version of that mold, and I actually really like that figure. I have reviewed him, and he's on the channel right now, and Bulkhead should be on the channel very, very soon, so make sure you stay tuned for that review, and of course that pack will also be on the channel as well. Between these two figures, which one do you like the most, Bulkhead, Springer, or Twin Twist? I gotta say, I really like Twin Twist. He's a really good figure. Let's now move on to the transformation into the car mode. Let's now get into transformation from the robot to the race car mode. So what you're going to want to do is go to the shoulder section here, hinge this panel out, hinge this other one out, hinge the arm back. There is a peg here and a port in the hand that will just plug into place, and you can hinge this down just like that. Do the same thing. Get the arm, peg that into place, hinge this down, and then I suggest put your finger on here and then untab it, because if you don't, this panel will untab. These panels are super annoying and really loose on my copy, so I do apologize if they ever untab during the transformation in this video. Next, what you're going to want to do is just hinge these whole sections just down like that. You can then bring this section up, and by the instructions it does say rotate the head, but I don't think you have to. And then you're going to want to bring these panels out carefully, make sure not to untab them, and then this whole section will just collapse over the head. And then you're going to want to make sure this thing goes under this panel right here. Make sure these pegs are completely covered under, just like that, and there we go. And now we're going to go to the legs. So now what you're going to want to do is hinge the foot out like this, open this panel section, and you're going to want to get your nail and get this whole little fin piece out. Sometimes it can be very annoying. Close that up. Same thing on the other side. Hinge this little fin piece out. Just get your nail in there, and then close it up. And now what you're going to want to do is bring this little panel section forward, move these around on that hinge, same thing on the other leg, move these around. As you can see, there is some tabs, and these will just tab into place just like that. And this panel section is supposed to tab into these slots. Unfortunately, on my copy, or it could be everyone's copy, I really can never get them aligned and actually tab into place, so I typically just kind of sit it there. Now let's go to the arms. So as you can see, just going to move this back to get out of the way, there is a little tab right there where I'm pointing. So you just want to make sure the arm passes that, so then you can tab everything into place. So there is a tab right there and a slot in the arm that will just tab into place. Now do the same thing on the other side. Get this around that, and then you can tab everything into place like this. And there we have Transformers Legacy Wreck and Rule Collection Springer in his race car mode. So unfortunately, yeah, this panel, I can never really get tabbed into place. I do my best, but whenever I try, it kind of untabs other things, so I kind of just have it sit there. But overall, this race car mode looks really cool. Let's take a look at the details. Here we have Springer in his really cool looking race car mode. Let's take a look at the details. We're going to start at the very front here. Some nice yellow with that symbol done in blue and white. Some nice more of that kind of iron metallic metal look to it. It looks super cool. Lots of panels and stuff. Of course, the wheel done in black and gray. Really glad those are not mushroom peg wheels. Those are really ugly. Of course, some more of that gray at the top. Some nice transparent blue for the, I'm assuming, cockpit section. Of course, some more panels, some nuts and bolts, some green. Of course, these nice fin sections done in this nice dark gray, and unfortunately I cannot really collapse that panel. I've tried. Whenever I do, it kind of untabs the back section, so I just kind of leave it alone. And overall looks super cool. Of course, the back wheel's there, looking very nice, and overall looks really cool. Rolls very well, actually. Very nice. Unfortunately, there's actually some wood under here, so it's a little bit uneven. So if you had a flat surface, I think it would roll very, very well. Let's now get into the storage for the accessories. It does come with quite a few. There's actually several different ways you can store these accessories. So for the storage, there is that same tab that was used in the robot mode. You can just plug that into place right there, just like that. And of course, you can go to the other side, tab that into place, and you can have those back. Unfortunately, they kind of do run into and kind of rub against those fins, so I typically do not store them there, but it's an option if you want to. And as for the blasters, it's actually a really cool area you can store them. Of course, there's some ports there, but I typically kind of do it at the front right here, and I think that looks pretty cool, in my opinion. As for the little spinning blade piece, there is actually a feature or a function for that, which I can show in just a second, but I actually really do like putting the blasters right there. That actually looks super cool. So, very, very nice. Let's now get into that other option. So if you do take all of these sections off, just like that, you can then stick the blasters together. There's these tabs on the side, and what you're going to want to do is get the sword, tab it in like there, tab it in right there, and then you're going to get the spinning blaster or spinning piece and just plug it in right there, and then you can plug this in on top, and now you have like a spinning cannon on top, which is pretty cool. A little bit big. You could actually, of course, have him hold this in his robot mode. I don't typically do that because, of course, it will spin in his hands. I think this looks pretty cool, kind of a tank sort of turret up top on the race car. Pretty crazy, but you can also do this in the jet mode if you want to, or the helicopter mode. So yeah, very crazy. I do like how they actually found a feature for the spinning piece, because, you know, in robot mode it doesn't have a feature. In this mode it actually does, so that's kind of nice. Pretty crazy, but actually looks super cool. So that's pretty much it for storage of the accessories and the details of this really cool looking race car. Let's now get into a quick comparison, and then we'll move on to transformation into the helicopter mode. Now for a quick comparison, here we have the Transformers Legacy Wreck and Roll Collection Springer with the Transformers Siege Voyager class Springer, both in the really cool looking race car modes, and unfortunately they both do have that problem with really not being able to tab and that panel to the feet. It's really hard to align, and unfortunately whenever I try to do it, kind of untabs everything else. So yeah, two really cool looking race cars. Of course, sculpt wise the exact same thing, the accessories store the exact same way. Of course, transformation is the exact same steps, and overall two really cool looking race cars. Really, it's just up to your personal preference which deco you like more. Of course, this has some more battle damage, some brighter green, lots more kind of iron and gray color to this one. I think probably of the vehicle modes, I probably like the Siege one a little bit more. I like that nice bright green, maybe a little bit too much gray for the vehicle mode here, but two really cool looking race cars. in my opinion. Let me know which one do you like in the comment section down below, the Siege or the Legacy. But that's pretty much it for this comparison. Let's now move on to the transformation into the helicopter. Let's now get into transformation into the helicopter mode. So what you're going to want to do is just turn it here. You can flip this panel up just like that, just to get a little bit of space. You can then disconnect the arm from the main section just like this. And then we're going to get to the legs. So what you're going to want to do is disconnect the legs, hinge this whole section around just like this, and then at the waist, or the this section right here, you're going to hinge this down. Do the same thing on the other side, hinge this down. And then what you're going to want to do is rotate here at the thigh, rotate here at the thigh like this, and then you can get this section here, use the foot or the pivot joint, hinge that around, bring it up here just like this, and there we go. Do the same thing on the other side. Just get this piece here, rotate it around, hinge this up, and there we go. Then we can get these inner pieces where the fin is, and just bring this out to make the very back of the helicopter, and then we can start to kind of tab everything together like this, and there we have the pretty much entire back half of the helicopter fully complete. So there we go. And now we're going to go to these sections right here. So you're going to pretty much untab this section right here, hinge this up, and then you can flip out this wing, and then just kind of loosen this whole section. You're going to want to rotate this around like that, and then you can re-tab this section from before. And there we have one side of the helicopter wing fully complete. Do the same thing on the other side, so just bring this section up, flip out the wing, loosen this a little bit, just swivel it out, and this will rotate over, this will tab into place, and now you're just going to pretty much re-tab the arms where they were before for the race car mode. So just tab that into place, just like that. Do the same thing on the other side. I do apologize if you don't have the best view. There's a ton of stuff, and of course it got really long, really fast. Just go over this. You can go in and, of course, re-tab everything from before. Just kind of straighten everything out. And we pretty much have the helicopter mode. You just need to bring this panel back. And there we have the almost complete helicopter mode. Of course, the helicopter has to have the helicopter blades. So what you're going to want to do is get this spinning piece here. You can then get the two swords. Just stick these in the sides, just like this. And then stick this on top. And there we have Springer in his really cool looking helicopter mode. Let's take a look at the details. Here we have the Transformers Legacy Wreck and Roll Collection Springer in his really cool looking helicopter mode. Let's take a look at the details. So of course, the entire front section has really stayed the same. Only these wing sections are new. So of course that yellow, nice symbol done in blue. Of course that nice blue plastic for the cockpit section, some nuts and bolts, the nice gray on the sides, some red, and of course the new section right here with a nice green for the wings, some more gray. I actually kind of like how you can still see the wheels from the car mode. That's actually kind of nice. Shows how it transforms. Pretty cool. Of course, we have this new blade section. This is comprised of these two swords and that spinning section, which can actually spin very well and freely. I'm just going to stop that so that gets out of the way. And of course, this entire back section is brand new, mostly done with a nice gray. Of course, the wheels back there, the small little fin piece. I kind of wish you could spin these, but they're kind of a little bit limited because they're rubbing against the plastic, but still pretty cool to see. And overall, everything else is very similar, really. Not a lot has changed, really, just this back section and, of course, the sides. But overall, I think a pretty cool-looking helicopter mode. Of course, there has to be some sacrifices because it's 3 modes, so there will be a little bit of kibble here and there that you do see. And, of course, the bottom, overall, cleans up quite nicely. Lots of hinges, a little bit of openness, but overall looks super cool. So let me just zoom out the camera a little bit. So, of course, weapon storage, the swords are here and that spinning piece. So the only accessories we have left are the 2 blasters. So if you wanted to, there's some ports right there, but I typically do just plug them in the front because I think that looks pretty cool on the helicopter. So he is definitely well armed and ready to fly and take down some Decepticon Seekers. So that looks really, really cool. So for a quick comparison, here he is with the Siege Voyager class Springer. Just bring him out in his helicopter mode. So as you can see, sculpt-wise, the exact same thing, exact same transformation, and of course, everything really just fits together the exact same way. But of course, again, really just your personal preference on the deco. More war-torn and of course more classic with the green, much more darker colors, but I actually really do like the nice clean look with no battle damage. So honestly, I think probably I'm going to have to pick the Legacy Springer for this mode, and of course the Siege one for the race car mode. But for the robot mode, I'm actually still kind of undetermined. There's some pluses and minuses about both of them, but still very, very cool in my opinion. Front view, side view. But yeah, two really cool looking helicopters. In the comment section down below, which one do you like more, the Legacy or the Siege? I think that's pretty much it for this comparison. Let's now move on to the final thoughts. Let's now get into the final thoughts for the Transformers Legacy Wreck and Roll Collection Autobot Springer. Starting in the remote, I actually really do like the nice gray kind of metallic color for the shoulders and the legs. That actually looks super cool and almost metal-like. It really gives a very realistic look to the robot feel. I like the nice new head sculpt, of course. It's the same sculpt. I just like the mixture of several different shades of green. I actually kind of prefer this one over the Siege one. Yes, the Siege one is more accurate to the G1 show. I think this one just looks super cool. Of course, lots of accessories, the two swords, the guns. I actually do like how the swords and the guns are different colors. I didn't like that with the Siege one where the accessories were all just that same blue. It was kind of repetitive and a little bit boring, and it looked kind of weird with just random blue swords in his hands. It looks really cool, of course, storing the swords in his hands. You can also store them in the back, which is pretty nice, and the blasters actually look pretty cool stored on his legs, because it doesn't really work in his hands in my opinion. I think it looks pretty nice with the swords. Moving into our, of course, articulation, pretty standard for a Voyager class size figure, really nothing crazy. Unfortunately, with the waist, there is actually a hinge joint right pretty much where his butt is, so it does kind of limit the articulation in his waist. You can only really rock it back and forth, or hinge it back and forth just a little bit, not really a full 360, but that's a very minor thing. Getting into transformation from the robot to the race car, it's actually pretty straightforward and simple. You really just kind of fold everything up. It can be kind of annoying because there's a few panels that have a tendency to untab quite a bit, because he is actually a very loose figure. Unfortunately, this copy has quite a few loose joints, so I hope if you get this figure, you have better luck than I do. Race car mode actually looks super cool. My only complaint would be, unfortunately, this top panel really does not want to tab in this mode, of course, the race car mode or the helicopter mode, so you really just gotta have to, place it on top and just, live with this. That's exactly how the Siege one was. It really just did not tab in. Anytime you would try, it would just untab other things, so I just kind of gave up on trying to have that work. I really like how the blasters can store on the very front of the vehicle. It kind of gives sort of a spy car sort of feel. Looks super cool. I like the nice symbol right at the very front of the vehicle. Also, you can store the swords on the side, but unfortunately they kind of do sort of rub against the back fin pieces, so not the best storage for the swords. I do like how you can combine all the accessories into one big giant, like a mega cannon on top. It's super crazy. It can spin around, so like a huge tank turret. It's actually super cool and very creative. Of course, the feature did stay with the Siege one as well, so nothing crazy there. Getting into transformation from the race car to the helicopter, it's actually pretty straightforward. You really just unfold the whole back section and just change one minor thing with the arms, and pretty much everything really sits in the same place. The arms really stay tabbed in the same place. The legs really just kind of unfold, and that's pretty much it. Of course, you can put the blade at the top, which spins very well, and you can still put the two guns at the very front, which looks super cool. My only complaint, again, really would be, of course, this panel, and unfortunately, these arms really do have a tendency to just not want to stay tabbed in, because this new added area is very close to the arm, so it kind of pushes it untabbed. That's really my only complaint. As it is, it looks super cool. Really good helicopter. I know it's very hard to do a helicopter in general for a Transformer figure, but when it's a triple changer, of course, there has to be sacrifices, so there is a little bit of chunkiness and a little bit of extra kibble you can see, but not too bad. So overall, I highly recommend to get this figure. I will be getting another pack from this sub-line, the Wreck and Rule collection. I'll be getting the Spindle and Impactor pack, and of course I hope to get the final pack very, very soon as well, so make sure you stay tuned on the channel for that. Overall, I think it's a pretty good figure. Not entirely sure which one is my favorite, this one or the Siege one. Let me know which one you like more in the comment section down below. I think that's pretty much it, and I'll